In this episode, we're going to make security training feel less like a one-size-fits-all lecture and more like a practical way to help different people do their jobs safely, especially when payment data and sensitive systems are involved. A lot of organizations say they train people, but what they often mean is that everyone watches the same generic video once a year and then goes back to work exactly the same way. Role-specific secure operations training is different because it starts with a simple idea. People have different responsibilities, different access, and different ways they can accidentally create risk. A cashier, a developer, a help desk analyst, and a system administrator do not face the same threats, and they do not need the same level of detail, but they all need clear expectations that match what they actually do. This kind of training helps prevent incidents, but it also helps people respond correctly when something strange happens because they recognize what matters and who to tell. By the end, you should understand how organizations decide what to teach each role, what secure operations looks like in everyday behavior, and why training only works when it connects to real tasks. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. To understand role-specific training, it helps to define secure operations in a way that feels concrete. Secure operations means doing day-to-day work in a way that protects confidentiality, integrity, and availability, even when nobody is watching and even when shortcuts feel tempting. It includes habits like using strong authentication, handling sensitive information carefully, following approved processes for changes, and reporting suspicious activity quickly instead of ignoring it. In a payment environment, secure operations also includes respecting boundaries around systems that store, process, or transmit cardholder data, because those systems have higher stakes and tighter rules. A key point for beginners is that secure operations is not only about stopping attackers, it is also about preventing accidents, like misdirected files, misconfigured systems, or shared credentials. Training should teach people what safe looks like for their role, not just what bad looks like in a headline. When secure operations is taught well, it becomes part of normal work, not a special security mode people only enter when they feel scared. The phrase role-specific is important because roles determine both risk and capability. Someone with administrative access can make changes that affect many systems at once, so their mistakes can have a bigger blast radius. But they also have the skills to understand deeper controls. Someone who answers phones for support might not have high privileges, but they might be targeted heavily by social engineering because attackers want them to reset passwords or reveal internal information. Someone who handles physical deliveries might never touch a server, but they might be the first line of defense against tailgating, badge misuse, or unauthorized equipment being installed. Role-specific training is about matching learning to real decisions the person makes on the job. It also respects time and attention, because teaching everyone everything causes fatigue and tuning out, which is its own security risk. For a beginner listener, this should feel like common sense. Teach people the security skills they actually need, at the level they can use. A strong training program begins by identifying roles and mapping them to responsibilities and access. This is not a complicated technical process, but it does require careful thinking about how work actually happens. For example, you might separate roles by job function, such as engineering, operations, support, finance, and management, but you also consider special roles like third-party contractors or temporary staff. Within each group, you identify common activities that touch sensitive systems, such as deploying code, approving changes, handling customer requests, or managing accounts. The point is to build a training matrix, meaning a plan that shows what each role must learn and how often they must refresh it, without treating everyone as identical. In payment-related environments, this mapping is especially important because certain roles interact with the cardholder data environment while others should never touch it. Training reinforces those boundaries by explaining why they exist and what to do when a workflow threatens to cross them. When done well, the mapping step makes training feel fair and relevant rather than random or punitive. Once roles are identified, the next step is deciding what secure operations topics belong to everyone versus what topics are specialized. Every person in an organization should understand basic awareness concepts like recognizing phishing attempts, protecting passwords, using multi-factor authentication, and reporting suspicious activity promptly. On first mention, multi-factor authentication, MFA, is the practice of proving identity with more than one type of factor, like something you know and something you have, and it matters because it makes stolen passwords less useful. Beyond those universal basics, roles need different depth, such as developers learning secure coding expectations and change control discipline, while support roles learn identity verification and safe account recovery steps. Managers need to understand risk ownership, approval responsibilities, and how to support security without pressuring teams into unsafe shortcuts. People who handle data need to understand classification and handling rules, including what data can be copied, where it can be stored, and how it must be disposed of. Role-specific training makes these differences explicit so people are not forced to guess what is expected. One of the most practical parts of role-specific training is teaching people what normal looks like in their operational environment, because spotting abnormal behavior requires having a baseline. For example, a help desk analyst should know what a legitimate password reset request typically includes, what verification steps are required, and what red flags suggest impersonation. A developer should know what a normal deployment pipeline looks like and why bypassing controls, even to fix something quickly, can create hidden exposure. An operations technician should know which systems are considered sensitive, what access methods are approved, and why shared accounts make investigations harder. Teaching baseline behavior is powerful because it reduces hesitation, and it gives people confidence to speak up when something feels off. Beginners often assume security is about memorizing threats, but in everyday work, security is often about noticing small deviations. When training includes clear examples of normal workflows, it makes reporting feel less emotional and more procedural. Social engineering deserves special attention in role-specific training because attackers adapt their stories to the target's job. A person who works in finance might receive a message about an urgent payment, while a developer might receive a message that claims to be about a bug report or a repository access request. A support person might receive a call that pressures them to bypass process for a senior executive, using urgency and authority as leverage. Training should explain these tactics in simple terms. Attackers try to manipulate trust, urgency, curiosity, or fear to get you to do something you normally would not do. Role-specific training then connects that idea to the exact moments where the role is vulnerable, like approving access, changing account details, or installing software. A key misconception is that smart people are immune to social engineering, but social engineering is designed to work on normal human instincts. Training works best when it does not shame people, but instead gives them scripts and habits like slowing down, verifying identity, and using official channels. This helps people respond calmly rather than defensively when they are targeted. For roles that touch systems directly, training should emphasize least privilege and the idea that access is a controlled resource, not a convenience. Least privilege means a person should have only the access needed to do their job, and not extra rights just in case, because extra rights become extra risk. Training should explain why excessive access leads to bigger incidents, because attackers who compromise a privileged account can move faster and cause more damage. It should also teach good operational habits like separating administrative work from normal user work, avoiding risky browsing on privileged sessions, and using approved tools and methods for access. It should reinforce that credentials are personal and must not be shared, even among trusted teammates, because shared credentials break accountability and create investigation confusion. When people understand the reason behind these rules, they are more likely to follow them during stressful situations. Beginners often think these controls exist because security is paranoid, but the truth is they exist because systems are complex and mistakes are common. Change discipline is another core secure operations topic that differs by role, and it is especially important in environments with payment processing. Change discipline means changes are planned, reviewed, tested appropriately, and documented, rather than being made ad hoc because someone is in a hurry. For developers and operations staff, training should connect this to real consequences, like a small configuration change accidentally exposing a service, or a rushed patch causing downtime that interrupts transactions. For managers, Training should emphasize approving change windows, supporting realistic timelines, and not rewarding risky heroics that bypass process. For support roles, change discipline might show up as following approved procedures for updates and not installing quick-fix software from untrusted sources. A mature training program also teaches that emergency changes still require discipline, just in a faster and more carefully controlled way. Beginners should see this as a way to keep systems stable and predictable, which makes both security and reliability stronger. When change discipline is taught role by role, it feels like operational professionalism rather than bureaucracy. Incident reporting and response behaviors must also be role-specific because different roles discover different kinds of issues first. A customer-facing employee might notice a weird complaint that hints at fraud, while an operations person might notice unusual resource usage or system errors. Training should explain what to report, how quickly to report it, and what details are helpful without encouraging people to investigate on their own in ways that could harm evidence. It should also teach what not to do, like deleting suspicious emails, rebooting machines repeatedly, or trying to clean up a compromised system before telling anyone. For roles with authority, training should include escalation responsibilities and the importance of coordinating communication rather than sending scattered messages. For beginners, it is helpful to think of reporting as pulling a fire alarm, where the goal is to alert the right responders quickly, not to be the firefighter yourself. Role-specific reporting guidance reduces fear because it tells people exactly what is expected. When people know the process, they act faster and with less second-guessing. Training only works if it is reinforced and measured, because knowledge fades and habits return under pressure. Reinforcement can happen through short refreshers, brief reminders tied to real events, and practice scenarios that help people rehearse decisions without touching real systems. Measurement does not have to be punitive. It can include simple checks like whether people can identify phishing cues, whether managers know escalation paths, or whether privileged users follow access rules consistently. For payment environments, training records also matter because organizations need to demonstrate that required roles received appropriate instruction and that instruction was maintained over time. A good program treats training as part of operations, not as a one-time compliance exercise, and that mindset improves results. Beginners should understand that training is like learning a language or an instrument, where repetition builds fluency. When training is ongoing, it becomes normal to think securely, and it becomes easier to correct mistakes early. The most effective programs create a culture where asking questions is welcomed and where reporting issues is rewarded, not punished. As we finish, the big idea is that role-specific secure operations training is about aligning people's everyday behavior with the real risks and responsibilities of their job, especially when payment systems and sensitive data are involved. Universal security basics like phishing awareness and credential hygiene matter for everyone, but different roles need different depth because access and decision points vary widely. When training connects directly to real workflows, people understand what safe behavior looks like, and they are more likely to follow procedures even when stressed or rushed. Topics like MFA, least privilege, change discipline, and incident reporting become practical habits instead of abstract rules when they are taught in a role-aware way. Reinforcement over time keeps skills fresh, and simple measurement helps organizations find gaps without blaming individuals. The most important lesson for a new learner is that secure operations is not a separate job you do occasionally. It is a way of doing your job every day, with the right training for the responsibilities you actually carry.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.